What is up, peeps? Coach Kev here on a Tuesday night here in July. Uh, Tough subject matter tonight, but I thought it was important to talk about what happened with the flooding in Texas and how you could stay safe if you're ever in that situation. Now, what happened down there in the Texas Hill Country is pretty monumental, and I've never seen anything like it that fast. From fresh water from rivers. When you see oceans and tsunamis and stuff, but this was basically a freshwater tsunami. So I have some videos, some slides to show you and things like that. And then when we get down here toward the end, we're going to talk about how we stay safe if we're ever in that situation. Things that I've seen. We've done a ton of water rescues over the years. It's all in fresh water. Water moves fast. It doesn't look like it. I learned that in class, taking classes. Certified in swiftwater rescue. I'm also certified to operate a boat in swiftwater rescue. These are rivers. These aren't oceans, but these are rivers. And one of the big things with Texas, it's called the hill country, right? So the bigger that elevation drop, that's the faster the water, the pressure that's building. That's where you get those waves a lot of times. It could flash flood anywhere. It could flash flood in a city like where I live. And yeah, there's some hills and things like that come into play, but just a regular city street can flash flood because what happened is the storm sewers get overwhelmed. And then almost as quick as it comes, as quick as it goes away, I've seen cars stuck almost up to their windows with water. And then like within a couple minutes, we just tell them to hang out, stay in the car. You're okay right now. It's not coming up. If it gets too high, that car starts to move. It depends on how they're sitting too. But anyways, I'll be able to tell you some things that they teach us. This is what's taught to the river rescue people and stuff like that. So I have a video that I'm going to put up here in the background. It's an old loop that's been playing on CNN. And actually, I had a better one I wanted to show you. I'm just thinking of it right now. Hold on a second. I'm going to say hi to everybody. If you watch these videos, most of these are on a loop. Yeah, I don't know if I have it here anymore. It was a good one. It was just a raw type video, but yeah. But there's some sites and things you could see here. So we'll just kind of throw this on in the background. This has been this one here this has been looped for a while now. Uh, talking about this, learning about this, how you could stay safe in this situation if God forbid you're ever in anything like this. Listen, if you're in something like this with this amount of fast moving water and this wall of water and that discharge and that pressure, it's going to take luck to get out of there. You could be a great swimmer. You could be this, you could be that. You could be great shape. It's going to take luck to get out of there. I could tell you from in training, from walking across water up to my shin, that was moving relatively fast, about up to our knees. Here's the video. I have this video that I'm going to show you too of how fast this happens and how fast it fills up. It'll knock you over. We're taught not to stand up in running water. If it's still water, you kind of make your way. But if it's rushing water, we're taught not to stand up. And I'm going to show you what we're taught, and I'm going to show you some slides and things like that. Ted Cruz was down there. I believe the president's going either Thursday or Friday. Governor Abbott just spoke, saying, they're staying here till the job's done. And as of the last thing that I saw, this was just recently. I took a screenshot because they're updating this. There's multiple sites that they're giving you updates. So this was the last that I saw was 109 deaths with 161 people missing in Kerr County. So that's 160 people. You say, well, how did that number jump up? Did they know that these people were missing? Yeah, they definitely knew people were missing. As they were gathering information, they were disseminating, and I weren't trying to hide anything or anything like that, but the people knew who was missing. We're not going to talk about the alerts, how that worked. We're not going to point fingers. People point fingers, and they do that at every level of politics. If I, good enough to get officially voted into the school board in November, I'll be one of the guys that say, hey, this is on us. Something we could have done here. I don't know what anyone could have done. In honesty, but let's not point fingers. Let's get everyone found. Let's get everyone found before we even break down what started to happen. Right. Uh, we know to be aware. They're being much more very aware. A lot of roads are still closed. They say they could be open, things like that. But let's get to that. Right. Let's get to that point. Where we can then, maybe become angry. Maybe this didn't work, but you got to recover people first. This is still going on. And these rescuers are out there risking a lot too. And there's a lot of things that you don't think of when you're out there. It's looking for people and there's rescuers and stuff like that. The wear and tear, number one on the body. You got to drink X amount of water. It's just tough. It's grueling. You're walking through things. You're walking through water. You don't know what's underneath the water. Twisted ankles, knees, hips, things like that are commonplace. These guys and girls have got twisted ankles. They're hurt. Their feet hurt, but they're pushing on. They're pushing on. Not to mention the mental side. An incident like this is going to stay with everyone for the rest of their lives. There's no question about it. No matter how much they've seen, there's been great stories. There's been heroic stories, and we'll talk about some of them too. So I have a really jam-packed show, I think, for you tonight. So I'd like to show it all to you. Jinx, as always, is here. It's great to see you. We're going to keep this right about an hour. We're not going to go too crazy. I know Gibbo has Mr. Cook on from the Evansville, one of his daughters from the Evansville murder at 8 o'clock. I would encourage all of you guys to go check that out as Gibbo does good work on that case. Ruckus and Mr. Steve worked that on the ground, probably still. I'm sure they still are. So it's another one that's Evansville, which was, in the same proximity as Delphi, so to speak, I guess, within, a couple hours. I'm not exactly sure. Rescue All the Dogs, good to see you. I received a fantastic card from Rescue All the Dogs and Jinx, as you see my wedding ring on. Yeah. Appreciate it very much. Miranda, a member for 7 months. Holy crap. Thanks, Miranda. Very nice of you. I try to do a couple members only a month. I just did one the other day. I try to just be unique. Frank Meister said I was a minute late. I love you, Frank, but me and Brooke were watching last night, and they say, hey, Frank's doing the floor show at 8. And it was like 8:03, and she's like, hey, ain't it on? I said, well, no, Frank's, he says 8:05. But you're right. I got nothing to say about it. I was just putzing around. I didn't have anything crazy going on. I was just getting some stuff together. CJK, good to see you. Honey B, good to see you. We don't want to go up. Here we go. But yeah, CNN, Fox, their local stations, they're all kind of carrying the same type of stuff. But just watching the picture, seeing the pictures, the magnitude of it, again, you're still, until you get on the ground, you're not understanding what it's really like. So we can never really understand what it's like, but it just gives you it's shocking. It's shocking. Thank you so much, Miranda. Impervious surfaces. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if we're talking about walking on things and stuff like that. They're talking about. I saw that they were talking about it and never did it. Well, now that the cost is not an issue now, right? The cost that you paid in lives, and unfortunately, the missing count is probably going to go up, and so is the death count. And it's it's just really, really tough. Well, one of them, I believe, is a counselor. Actually, I have that number down to 5 and 6 now. 6 missing, 5 kids and 1 adult from the camp, from Camp Mystic, with 27 confirmed, unfortunately deceased from the camp. Children. 6 missing. I'm not seeing the 10 anymore. I saw it updated to 6 missing, so I'm assuming there's making notifications on some others. I don't know. I can only guess on that. Oh, no pressure. I've watched Drew talk before. He's a good guy. Yeah, it's absolutely overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with everything. It's just I mean, it's just anything you could think of, plus 100 more things that you don't think of when something like this happens. Yeah, well, where this comes down, they're in the floodplain there, but it's the hill country. It's called the hill country, and I watched videos of it. And it looks like an absolutely beautiful place. It's you know, it's always going to be something now that when you look at that the Guadalupe River and the people that go and picnic there and vacation there and do all kind of things there, uh, and they grew up there, and their generations and their grandparents and their grandparents' grandparents grew up there. It's always going to have this thing about it now, like almost like Delphi and the trails, right? So beautiful out there, so just peaceful and tranquil. But there's this thing that hangs over it. There's just always this thing, and this is going to be a similar effect to when bad things happen in beautiful places. But that's what attracted everybody. Plus, it's the Fourth of July weekend, and Turbo shared a video in Discord, and I shared it on YouTube, where it's happened in 1987. It wasn't the same amount of death toll, but there was a bus that ended up getting overtaken, and yeah. Oh wow! I saw a guy looking for a girl. I wonder if it's the same guy. I wonder if it's the same guy. It's just heartbreaking, to be the same way. Like I have to look. I have to go look until I know. Uh, and it's what's hard to understand is you're just not walking through the ground, and you're not just walking through and seeing people. They're buried within inches and inches of things. And one of the guys, I was watching a video today, and they were out. One of the things that he said to me, and it distinctly stuck out to me, and I really didn't think of this. I've never been to a mass casualty incident like this, where you have to search and find people. Everybody's in a house or in a car. They're not necessarily spread out like this for miles and miles and miles, and buried in just feet of debris. As they would go by, they would be able to detect an odor of something dead. And the guy that had the video couldn't tell the difference between people and animals. Say one time it was actually a fish was stuck in a tree, and there were some other things. But if you have had the unfortunate uh, occurrence in your life to have smelled a deceased person, uh, it's one that doesn't go away. So, I mean, people are using their noses too. They're using every resource that they have. But these are just things that you don't think of. The smell. The smell is what's going to come back to you. It's going to be triggered. Right? I talked about that before. Your memory is connected to your olfactory somehow, some way. And that's where you get the smells. You know what I mean? And it brings things back, both good and bad memories. Miranda, there's a story of there was two sisters, and they were found holding hands. Uh, it's just it's heartbreaking. But the thing that I could tell you guys is this is how like I've learned probably only in the last 5 or 6 years from seeing things I've seen at work. You try to make sense of it, and you can't. And you have to be all right with not making sense of it. This is what I mean. You can't say there has to be an answer here. There has to be. It was from whatever. I've heard different things. Republicans blaming Democrats, vice versa. People blaming God. People blaming extraterrestrial forces. Like there has to be an answer, but a lot of times there isn't an answer. You just don't know. Why did the weather do that? It happened, and you have to be okay not knowing. Uh, and it's not fair. But once you get to that point, when you've seen tragedy and encounter bad things, you just have to be okay with like, listen, this is not going to make any sense. Why did this happen? You try to make sense of it, and that's what you rack your brain, and that's kind of what messes you up. So you just have to, miracles can happen. They could find someone alive, especially kids. Kids are resilient. I was talking about, on Frank's last night about Flora. While you continue to work people with kids that are on CPR, what are kids and you don't want to quit. But the other thing is, they're resilient. They could come back from so much. They could be maybe unconscious longer than an adult, somebody my age or something like that. But anyways, uh, it's a terrible tragedy. Again, we don't want to point fingers. Let's get everybody recovered, get them to their families. Uh, and if there's blame that needs accepted, hey, if we could have put these things on a river, then as folks should say, listen, we shouldn't have said what we said or argued over what we argued. And would that have made a difference or not? I don't know. At some point, people are going to come out and they're going to tell their side of the story. Yes, these sirens would have worked. No, the sirens wouldn't. Whatever they think of. But let's get everybody home to their families as best that we can. The 1987 flood, there was one young man that was never recovered. from that one. So hopefully everyone's able to recover here. Just where I grew up, by family and friends. They're okay. It's an hour away. Imaginable. Oh, hey, Lone Pony. That is, well, I'm very sorry. I'm glad your family's okay, but I just couldn't imagine an incident like this. And it's any human life's loss is just is horrible. But children, and the magnitude of children, and you read their stories and they wanted to be when they grew up, and it's heartbreaking. It's mind numbing. You know, but I don't know. But there's stories of the good and the heroics, and there's things like that. So you have to try to temper that with both, but it's not going to make up for the sorrow that everyone feels. We're human beings, So a story like this is just it's a lot to take. But I thought it was important to talk about, and like the other probably last half or last quarter of this show will be how to keep you safe. And if anything good ever would come out of this, people maybe will be more aware, alert, heed warnings, make sure that they have warnings. If they don't have phone service, that they have a radio or things like, different things like that. But Mother Nature is undefeated. You can't stop her. If she wants something done, it's going to be done. And all we can do is try to protect ourselves. Dick Eastland was the president, CEO, manager, whatever you want to call it, of the camp. He's been there for quite a while. He's quite a community figure. Many people have talked about sending their daughters to that camp. Many upstanding people in the community, from multiple states around here now, have talked about going there. And he was like a dad to them. And the love that he showed them and encouragement. And it was always a great positive experience. They look forward to going to camp. And he is deceased. You didn't hear the exact story yet, but some very heroic things were going on. I've heard a couple of things, but I don't know if any of them are true. But everything's pointing that he was when the shit was hitting the fan, Dick Eastland was getting the job done, and probably knowing that he wasn't going to come back, but he chose to help as many campers as he could, protect as many as he could. And we'll hear the stories of that, I'm sure. We talked about the cost, and there's fire ants down there. Just imagine just everything that's going on with you and everything that you're seeing and everything. And you're getting eaten alive by fire ants too. But these guys and gals are pushing through, and they are getting it done. Again, 27 deceased children, 6 people missing from the camp. From what I can gather, it's 5 children and 1 counselor. But remember, those counselors were children too. They may have been 18 or 19 or maybe a little bit older, but they're children, for a 46-year-old anyway. So what I do want to show you next is that video that I was telling you about. So this what I'm going to show you here, once this comes up, give me a second, is going to be that rush of water coming in, and how it's just absolutely it's hard to, it almost looks like it's fake. So let me show you this. And again, this is fresh water. So let me get us to the proper screen. Let me present this to you. But this is just absolutely, of all the things that I saw and I watched, this is one of the most shocking things. It's just absolutely insane. So New York Post shared this. Getting Gavin Walston shoots this video. And here we go with it. So he's standing on this bridge, and you see these water coming in. You see where the trees are. They're out of the water, right? These trees are out of the water. They're pretty big trees. And remember, they're finding mattresses and stuff in trees like 60, 70 feet high. That's right, 60, 70 feet high. When you get down to Camp Mystic, it's almost kind of like a bowl once it breaches those banks of the river. And where the younger girls were staying was right against, for the most part, the Guadalupe River. The older girls were positioned up a little bit higher, and I have a slide to show you that. See, once you start seeing this picking things up, those are 50-gallon drums. I don't know if they're probably be garbage cans we use in a ballpark or something like that, but still, it takes some water to move them. And you watch these trees I mean, they just fold them in half. Uh, and now you start to get your what we call strainers. Well, I have a slide to show you of strainers. God forbid if you ever get stuck in this, which you can do to get out of strainers. Strainers are any solid thing or any group of things that lets water through but won't let a person through, right? And the way I was taught was like you're the spaghetti. You get held up in a strainer, but the water goes through. Here's a tree, it just looks like it disappears. I mean, and you're looking at that water and like, yeah, it's moving fast, but it's the force, it's the gallonage, it's the push behind it. It's absolutely unbelievable. Now what happens is you start getting all this stuff blocked up, so that big stream is now more narrow. So the more narrow the stream, take a fire hose. The bigger the hose, the more water, the more volume we get. But the smaller the hose, the more pressure that's behind that stream, and the further out it goes. So that's the video on that, and it's just absolutely, it's just Mother Nature. We should never be surprised by Mother Nature, but we are at times. Let me run back, and we talked about stories of rescue and things like that. So I have a good one here. I have the guy who was the rescue swimmer who you saw dangling from a helicopter. He tells his story in a couple of different interviews. You could Google it. I think CNN was one of the places he was at, and did an interview, a fairly long interview. I'm not going to play it here. I don't think this is it, but you can find it. So he's 169 people during the Texas floods. He's from New Jersey. This was actually his first mission. He just graduated from school. U.S. Coast Guard swimmers being called a hero after catastrophic flood swept through the central Texas over the holiday weekend. Now the Department of Homeland Security highlighting who he is. Scott Ruskin helped rescue at least 165 people, many of them young children, in a summer camp that was hardest hit. Now, when he told the story, he basically got out of the helicopter, and those guys were transporting kids back and forth, and he stayed at the scene and kind of helped like organize. So he says, I'll stay behind and do what I have to do. Ruskin was one of the first on the ground after flying through the storm. Once at the campsite, he was met by 200 frightened children. Ruskin said he led them about 10 to 15 at a time to an Army helicopter ready to take them to higher ground. This was surprisingly Ruskin's first mission. How about that for your first mission? Ruskin said that while he was well prepared, it was the kids' resilience that kept him going. Despite being held a hero, Ruskin downplayed the praise, saying any of the Coast Guard rescue swimmers would have done the same, and he was just happy to be in position to help. Humble. But yes, those Coast Guard rescue swimmers are badass individuals. The Coast Guard deployed after a federal disaster. They carried out more than 230 rescues. So that is the story with Scott Ruskin. And quite the story there. Give me a second here. So, they started to talk and let people know about, unfortunately, the people that we lost and the children's that we lost. And as we start getting through that, I don't know if it's the right one or not. I sent so much stuff. I don't think this is it. Let me go back here. Yeah, I don't think that's what I wanted. Anyway, what I will do Let's get back with you, see if we got any questions. And let's take that out of there. There we go. Snakes, water moccasins, and rattlesnakes, absolutely, and they're in places that they usually weren't at. Right? They're up and everywhere. They're in the streets. You talk stories about Katrina with alligators and stuff like that. Yes, there's a ton there. I guess I'm not even thinking about the snakes that much, maybe. But yes, there was. There was a ton there for sure. So as we get back to this, so a couple of things that I wanted to show you and talk to you about if, God forbid you're ever in this situation. And there's things that you can do to try to help yourself and even help rescuers if they're coming to get you. So let's put this up and let's let you have a look at it and what I was talking about here. Let's go there. Okay. So what they teach us, and there's a guy you can see here. What they teach us is if we're in the water, and let's say that we're on a line or something, the line breaks, or if we get knocked out of our boat or whatever, or something happens, and we ended up in the water, and this is swift water. The water, it's moving. Uh, one of the things they tell you not to do is stand up. Do not stand up, because when you stand up, you have a good chance of getting your foot stuck in something in the ground. And this is probably more rocky surface than what you would saw with the Texas flooding. It was more a muddy thing, it looked like to me, but it's the same thing. There's all kind of stuff, and once the floods begin, who knows what it has dragged down and who knows what it's pulled down. We're seeing homes that have been moved. There could be anything in the bottom of that water. You could easily break your leg. You could get stuck and drown because you can't move because your leg's stuck. So you're taught to be on your back, face up, horizontal posture, feet pointing downstream. Ferry angles. What does that mean? Well, they teach you to have your hands out like this. And if you're going straight down the middle of the stream, you want to put your hands at a 45-degree angle either way. The thought process is it's almost like you're steering yourself to one of the banks. So eventually you want to get to one of the banks so you could get out of the water, or at least maybe hold on to something over there and get out of the middle of the water and quit getting, pushed downstream further. So they teach you that ferrying angle. So if you're ever in the water, you see people all the time, they're like swimming and stuff like that. You don't want to do that. It'd be very easy to run over something, to get stuck in something, to be, abrasion or a cut. I know your back could be cut, but I'd rather have maybe a cut on my back than I would on my chest or my face. So this is what's taught to us. And you can see what's ahead of you coming down the stream too, in case you have to do anything to your position if a strainer or something comes along. And we'll show you pictures of that. So if you've ever seen the throw bags, there's a throw bag, and this is basically how it works. See, they're usually orange bags. There'll be 50-foot, 100-foot of rope in there. Whoops, sorry about that. Depending on where you are, who's using it, I guess you could even have 75-foot in. We like 50. So how this works is, there's a guy, you see number one over there, the guy enters the water. Let's make sure we're on the, okay, good. The guy at number one, where he enters the water at, the swimmers, the instructors over here, they're doing this is not like it's a real person or whatever, I guess. But someone goes in the water, so the throw bag is thrown. You're obviously throwing it in front of him. So the way the current is running, if you look, it's running this way. So you want to throw it ahead of him, because even if he doesn't catch it right away and you get it out far enough, it's eventually going to go. He'll be able to get his hands on that rope. What we tell the swimmer to do, or the person that needs saved, is to put that line over their outside shoulder. Their outside shoulder, the shoulder that's furthest away from me that's throwing the rope. Okay? What I'm going to do then is, they don't want you to put the rope around you, but there's things you could do where you could grab it and you could sit down. And what the current will do is the current will push, and if you have it over that outside shoulder, that current's going to eventually pendulum you into the shore where I am. So further down, he's coming into the shore. See how we're hanging out up here, and we're penduluming him into the shore. So just so you guys know that if you're ever in that situation, and hopefully you're not, and someone throws a rope bag to you, get it over your outside shoulder, the shoulder furthest away from the rescuer. Don't want to put it over your neck or around your neck. Okay. They want you to put it on the shoulder. But there, you can also, there's people to tell you this and you tell you not to. You can put it under your armpit too. Yeah, it could hurt, but there's less of a chance of it getting on your neck. And remember too that if you don't have a vest on, this is not going to help you stay afloat. Although the bag that comes out has a little flotation device in it, but the reason for that is it wants the rope to float. Okay, because that rope will eventually sink once it gets so wet, right? It's called dynamic Kern mantle. So everybody understands that. The self-rescue position is what I was talking about before. This is just another slide for it. Float on back with feet up, toes out of the water. Use the feet to fend off obstructions. Use hands to position body 45 degrees to the current in ferrying position. Do not stand up in the current. Doing so will risk foot entrapment, which causes all kind of other issues, including possible drowning. So position in current self-rescue. If you get in the current and you're in the bad shit and you want to somehow get out of the bad shit, maybe over to an area where you can get to, or you could see an eddy coming, which we're going to talk about eddies and why they're good. Aggressive swim, strong, forceful crawl, stroke on stomach. Keep body 45 degrees to the current in the ferrying position. So you're not swimming straight up. You're swimming at 45 degrees even through the current. Keep head out of the water. Aggressively swim to shore away from hazard. Do not stand up in current. Wait until you get to the shoreline. So you're coming down the river and you see a big rock or strainer or a piece of debris, and you know that you can't deflect it with your feet. So what you want to do is go 45 degrees away from it in either direction. And if that's when you want to get out of your ferrying position, you flip over and you aggressively swim. And you're only going to do that for a short period of time. You're not going to aggressively swim for a very long period of time. So as a rescuer goes, this is how we want to take you out. Okay, there's a couple reasons for that. One, because we have you in a self-rescue position, you don't even know it. We float best like this. I guess you could argue you float good with your face in the water, but that's not going to do anyone of any help. I have your arms under control. People lose their mind sometimes. Their fight or flight's kicking in. They're afraid they're going to die. They want to dunk you. They want to push your head underwater to keep their head above water. You can't take that personal. It's a natural reaction, right? You're trying to live. It's your body just trying to tell you to do this. So this kind of full Nelson hold, and I'm able to kick my feet. I have my vest on, or I have a rope from the guys over here, and I have it across, and they're just pulling us in or whatever. So if you get in that position, you might feel helpless, but that rescuer, that's exactly where he wants you. You can see he has a flotation device under the guy, and he has it wrapped around him too. That's actually a lifeguard right there, but it's the same thing that we do. If you ever fall into water that's cold or at night, or I mean, you might be out there for a while for whatever conceivable reason, the heat escape lessening posture, you're basically just crossing your arms and crossing your legs and pulling everything as close to your core as you can. And then trying to heat that little life vest will give you a little bit. Your PFD will give you a little bit of warmth. Anyone that's been outside in the summer on a boat knows how hot a life vest is. Because it certainly will make you sweat. Let's get back to this. And let me show you the next slides I want to show you. We talked about eddies. We talked about strainers. What are they? So you're going to see a ton of this, an absolute ton of this in Texas. And if you're sure you've already watched videos and seen it. Let's pop it in there real quick. But that is a strainer, okay? Remember, people are spaghetti. Let's say we're the spaghetti. When you dump your spaghetti into a strainer after you boil it, after you throw a noodle to the wall to see if it sticks, no, it's done. You boil it, and the water comes out, but the spaghetti stays in. So you can see the water's going through, but people aren't. Boats aren't. This is like a log all the way across the river. You could see strainers that are just a couple feet long. It could be maybe a tree that has fallen down, even naturally, that's been there for a while and it's kind of lodges itself in the water. Those things will get you stuck too. But you see a ton of that in Texas right now. Houses, RVs, they're strainers, right? How's a house a strainer? Well, houses usually are busted up, but an RV, once those windows break and the water starts going through it, it becomes incredibly dangerous. Incredibly dangerous because you have the push against the RV, then you have the pull from wherever the windows are, especially if they're underwater. You have like an undertow almost going through there. So it's all extremely, extremely dangerous, even now, for anyone to be in that water, but you have to be. You kind of have to be, and they understand that. So this is an eddy. This isn't the greatest picture of an eddy. This is from a textbook uh, that we've used. This is the Pasco Fire Department. I don't even know where the hell Pasco is. An eddy is the swirling of fluid and the reverse current created when the fluid flows past an obstacle. So let's say you big rock sticking out of the water, right? And water's hitting, it's rushing around. Well, you don't want to go into that, right? We can't kick that over with our feet, but we know that if we need a break on the other side of it, it's actually coming, the water is coming down this way. On the other side of it is an eddy where you have water pushing back up against it. We can rest there. People that do the whitewater rafting, if people, get flipped out of a boat, they look for an eddy and they all kind of regroup there. You could take a few seconds there. You could catch your breath there. You could stay there if you have absolutely must, and it'd be a good place for a rescue position. Okay. The problem is you have eddy lines. We'll start seeing eddy lines, and sometimes it's very hard to get out of the eddy and back into the stream. But if you're a swimmer and you know that, or if you're a boat operator and you know that, that's very important. Here's another strainer. It's a telephone pole. It's an obstacle. Uh, yeah, it's a telephone pole. Water doesn't go through the telephone pole, but it goes underneath it. But it's not going to let you through, right? Not going to let you through. So this person has flipped over, and what they're going to do is use the current and kind of push themselves up and over that obstacle. Once they get over that obstacle and see it free of debris, they will return to their self-rescue position. Here's a little more about strainers. Partial obstructions that filter water down trees, gratings, mesh creates unequal force across itself. People become pinned by the water's force. So you can see this guy here, right? He's not necessarily stuck in this log, but the water that's moving this way has him pinned. He can't get up and over it. He can't get up and over it. There's a picture of, I guess, a car that's stuck in there. It looks like a car, and it has everything blocked up. So this whole area here is extremely dangerous. And as they're looking for people and stuff like that, when they see these strainers, and some of them, the water will just recede, the strainer will remain there. When you see these big, massive knots of trees and dirt, those were strainers at one point. Something got caught, something big enough hit and got caught and stuck, or something got stuck on the bottom, and it just started piling debris up as it came down the river. Anything that will come down the river. So that's in these strainers. A lot of times is unfortunately where they're finding people. Here's a very good picture of an eddy. I'm talking about with the eddy. Okay, so this is the down current. The river's moving this way. This is a big rock. Again, we don't want to go flying into this fucking thing, right? We want to break our legs. But the eddy line comes around here. We can see the eddy line. You see it? Like they're breaking the water. So if you're able to get around here and get past that eddy line and back into here, this water is pushing this way. So it's going to be hard to go through the eddy line. It's possible, but it's hard to do. But if you could get past it far enough, you see where that water quits breaking, and you get back in it. Now you can rest back here or do whatever you need to do, or maybe just take a quick break, whatever it is that you're doing. It works with a boat too. You can put that boat right up against there, as long as it's not bigger than whatever the obstruction is that's creating the eddy. But remember, the eddy's not letting water through. This rock isn't floating. It goes all the way to the bottom, and nothing's getting through it. So you don't have to worry about the strainer effect. That looks like that was it for that. Let's get back and see what else I had to show you. If anything else to show you. I don't think that I did. And a couple just really common sense, but it doesn't happen common sense wise. Let's see, we have some comments here. Yeah, people breaking out windows because it's that topography is it's like almost like a bowl. But this river rose 30 feet. It's just it's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable mountain, especially in that short period of time. There was a young man who broke out a window, and when he did it, he almost cut his arm off. And they got to the roof. He got family got to the roof. He told him he was sorry. He wasn't going to make it, but horrible. He got his family out. Uh, but these are the stories that you hear. But even the heroic stories are absolutely heartbreaking. Uh, just horrible. Oh, I don't know. I would hope that there would be more of a thing. Anywhere that flash floods can happen, anywhere that people even go into the water. You know what I mean? There's people that do different things. There's some lakes that are dangerous. It's good to know. Yeah, CJK, that's what I had too. Five campers and one counselor still missing. It would be a great thing, especially people that are around. It wouldn't hurt, and the kids might enjoy it. You know what I mean? It would be something that would be like a fun, like maybe take you out. We go practice this. We practice in a swimming pool first. That's what we did. Then we go out into the river. We go out into a place up near here. Well, it's about 2 hours away in Somerset. We're an hour and a half away in Somerset County. Beautiful out there, God's country. Uh, and they have like a controlled water release where they have training and a really small overhead dam and things like that. Overhead dams are one of the big things around here you got to be very careful with. A young man who fell into the Red Cedar Creek near Michigan State was finally located deceased. Yeah, we just had it. We just had a woman, a young lady, I think it was in February, that jumped off a bridge in North Versailles, and she was down by there. There used to be floodgates that open and close. I don't know if they still work or not, but there was vegetation that grew there, and it was too dangerous. It was cold, and the water was in very rough shape. We had a lot of rain in February, but we had a lot of rain, and they wouldn't send divers down. And basically, what happens is a lot of times you have to go down if you're really, really stuck. And what happens is after you're underwater for a period of time, your body begins to like bloat, and then you'll come back up unless you're held down by something. So if you're really, pinned in those trees or that debris, then that can absolutely happen. Then I'll have to send a diver for you. All the debris and trees piled on the banks and the water could be underneath. Oh yeah, well the lady that they found in the tree was I've heard a couple reports, but it's 12 to 15 miles away, and it's hard to estimate how fast that water's going. And I don't want you to fall. That's the most important stat: the speed of the water. It's the discharge, the amount of discharge, how much water is coming. You could have a little sprinkle of water that's maybe moving 25 or 30 miles an hour, but you have a 30-foot wall of water that's moving 15 miles an hour, and that's 1,000 times more dangerous, right? Probably more than that. So we're going to hear those stories, and it's just these trees, and go out and just push a tree and see how you're not going to move it. And you saw the videos. You've not probably even before tonight's show. You've seen the videos, and you've seen them it just like folds it in half. It just takes the tree and stuffs it on our bridge. It's like a piece of broccoli. It's unbelievable. So you can imagine how easily you could get swept away. And remember this too. This is happening in the middle of the night. This is happening overnight. This is in the dark. So once that water starts hitting, you're going to lose electricity. You see some videos where houses like where the lights are on, but they start to go out. Soon as something gets hit, one of those poles go down, that electric meter gets filled with water. It's over. Okay, it's over. The only good thing that I've seen or haven't seen is fires started because of flooding, because of electrical things that I could tell. So that's really good because that's even with floods, that's something that we worry about here. But remember, we're urban area, right? We're an inner city urban area where if things start to flood and start to electrocute, everything's more condensed and everything's underground and there's vaults that can flood. We've had those a couple times, so that's one positive thing. So hopefully everybody, politically could put everything aside, get this done, get these people recovered. And if people are wrong and need to be taken to task, they need to be taken to task. But I don't know who could have predicted this. I don't know who could have predicted this. I don't think anybody could have. Maybe right before So the alerting system, it obviously needs better. Maybe there's no fingers to be pointed. Maybe it's just like, hey, we need to do this better. And Camp Mystic and the girls and their counselors and everyone else in the Texas Hill Country, their legacy will be that we're not going to let this happen again. There could be catastrophic flooding. Uh, seems to happen about every 40 years or so in this area. There was even a flood in the 90s too, but I don't think it was as bad as 87. So it does happen. So you're going to lose homes. That's terrible. People losing their homes, but no more loss of life. There has to be something developed. So hopefully from this, something's developed and a warning system, an alerting system, something. I don't know. It's almost, you got 700 campers there. So I can't imagine you having a place to store 300 or so rescue boats or rafts or things like that. And that wouldn't even guaranteed you safety in the way that water was moving. So there has to be practical solutions. And you saw it. The river was almost empty before this happened. It's absolutely crazy to me that river was almost empty before this happened. Just talked about that. Thought all he had to escape a rip current. Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to the beach Friday, Topsail, North Carolina. They just had a tropical depression went through there. So I always check like their flags like the week before. 2 yellow flags or this or that. And I usually still go in anyway. Well, that's good. I know Lake Erie, we just lost a person on Lake Erie. Lake Erie supposedly has real bad storms and things come up. Those Great Lakes are almost like oceans, mini oceans. But hey, Mustang, good to see you. The amount of roadway and other impervious surfaces. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, it has to go somewhere. It has to go somewhere. So I thought you were talking about the impervious surfaces because they break up and things like that. So you could be walking down what you think's a road, and then all of a sudden, a big part of the road is just gone, and you're just like, "Whoa," you know what I mean? But yeah, it's anytime that we mess with like nature, and I understand. Look, so we're going to build houses, we're going to build roads. This is what we do, but where that watershed stopped, now it's changed. Now it has to go another way. It has to go somewhere else. So it's just, yeah. And you saw the total destruction to the roads and the bridges and things like that down there. It's just, it just takes everything and it just breaks it up and it just shoves it underneath the bridge, or it just, it's really hard to understand that, to fathom, I should say, the power of Mother Nature. But a couple things to think about after floods. You go walking around, you survived the flood, you're very happy. Maybe you lost your house. Maybe you lost your house, but your family, you're walking out, you're looking around. A couple of things you need to worry about: power lines being down. And it's not always underwater. Usually if the power line's underwater, it should be not energized. If it's not, when you hit that water or get close to it, relatively close, you're going to know about it. But just power lines laying in the yard. Let's say a telephone pole or something got knocked down, but it's not underwater. Maybe it still has power. It shouldn't, but you want to avoid that. You want to be very careful walking around. Getting stuck in things. Sinkholes begin to form. Even in grass, you go walking, boom. Now, maybe you're not dead, but now you got a broken leg and you're in a hole. Now rescuers have to come grab you, get you to the hospital or whatever the case may be. And when you're walking in water, you don't know what's underneath you. That's such a huge thing. That's why you see all you guys with these poles. Guys and gals have these poles where we just kind of walk almost like a blind person in front. So you're looking to feel if it hits anything. If it just drops off, you want to know that before you go stepping there. So people just walking around, getting out of their houses. This is after the waters maybe start to recede a little bit. It's still very, very dangerous. So when people are like, oh, they're not letting us back in our neighborhood, what's up with this? They're worried about you. They don't want you to get hurt. There could be structures that are still falling down, that aren't all the way down yet, things like that. So just keep that in mind. People are always looking out for you. They're trying to err on the side of caution. It's not about, hey, you can't come back in your neighborhood or a power trip thing. Not in times like this. Not in times like this. Water moccasins, yeah, they'll come up. I've seen them come. I've seen them a couple times actually on Fifth Avenue, one of our main streets. And we're coming up out of the sewers or whatever. But we'll get, pounded with rain. Not like they had down there, but we'll get a quick maybe inch over like an hour and a half or something like that. And the storm sewers, they can't take it. And once the storm sewers get filled up, the water starts coming out of them, the quote unquote fresh water. And then those grates get covered up with shit. Right after the water recedes, it pulls everything on it. So the next time it rains, if they don't go clean them off, they're going to have a problem. And they'll call us sometimes, and we're not really supposed to do it. But if a road's closed and your storm grate, we know where the problem grates are at. So a guy will go walking down with a pike pole, and he's pretty close to look, and you look just for that little bit of swirl. There's a little bit of water going down. Oh, there it is. And you start jamming it in. And then as the water comes in, you just kind of push off the stuff that's coming on it. Out it goes, down to the river. So, but that is what I have for you today. The Camp Mystic thing, like I said, unfortunately, the missing and the death toll is going to continue to rise. You know, it's just you can't wrap your head around it. You can just try to learn from it. There's places to make donations. I don't have any favorite place or a place where I've made anything yet. You could send prayers. You could send good vibes to the people. And celebrate the heroes in the story. Even though this is one of the worst stories that you're ever going to hear, there's still heroes in it. And you know where we are now, where I think it's 109 and 170 or whatever missing, could be a lot higher if there wasn't the people that there was. If there wasn't Dick Eastlands, if there wasn't the rescue swimmer, if there wasn't the two sisters who worked at the thing, if there wasn't for the the Mexican firemen and search and rescue teams coming over. If it wasn't for the Cajun Navy, they have a spokesman now. They're fucking awesome. Came rolling up. The countless people, the tourists that were there that were helping people, the countless people from the hill country of Texas, the beautiful hill country of Texas. I guess they taught us, a little bit about Texas. You hear about Texas and people from Texas. They're some proud sons of bitches, aren't they? Or Texas. Well, you're seeing it, and it makes me proud, and it's very sad at the same time. But so Texas, strap up your boots. You got a fight on your hands, but I know that you're up for it, and have your prayers for all the families. And I couldn't imagine ever losing a child that young, or ever losing a child. But good God, where those people are feeling, and what those kids went through is over. So whatever you believe, what those kids went through is over. And they were together. And they had, they were together. So go Blue. Miranda, I just sent my son a thing the other day, I think Saturday last week. 8 more weeks till Michigan football. So yeah, President of Mexico sent crews. They have a lot of floods, and you figure they're right across the border of Mexico. It's a very similar territory, very similar climate, topography, things like that. And I don't know who it was from the White House staff offered them a very nice thank you. So that was nice to see that everyone's kind of putting their shit aside for this incident. Hopefully, not everyone, but most people are. Again, plenty of time to point fingers. Let's get everybody found, get everyone returned to their families. And keep our fingers crossed that there's people out there that just somehow, some way, haven't been gotten to yet, but they're okay. Yeah, it's absolutely possible, especially young people that are so resilient. So let's hope for a story like that. But anyways, I appreciate everybody coming in. I hope that you never have to use anything that I taught you tonight. I truly do. But it's important. This is what they teach us. Things happen, so just keep that in mind and be very, very cautious. Don't stand up in running water. I mean, you're going to feel like you want to do it, but then you have the opportunity to get your foot stuck, fall over, hit your face, get in that rescue position, 45 degrees. God forbid if anyone has to throw your rope outside shoulder, just hold on to that son of a bitch. That guy on the shore, the gal on the shore is going to do all the work. So, all right, I don't know if I'm trying to do a show maybe Thursday. We're going on vacation to Topsail. We're leaving Friday. I'm sure I'll have some videos there. Our favorite place on earth. We're taking Brooke's youngest daughter, one of her friends this year. So it won't just be me and her, but looking forward to it as I always do. I absolutely love it down there, Topsail, North Carolina. We're our 4th year going. Fantastic place. So maybe Thursday. I did a short today about the situation in Texas, and it's an emotional thing, but I just felt like I wanted to do it. Wanted to do something. But anyways, want to have a drink here. Ye old Gatorade. I'm going to leave you guys to it on a Tuesday night. Hope the weather's nice where you are, hot, too hot, whatever it is that you're into. Continue to have vibes and prayers for these families, for these first responders, for people that lost everything. Uh, and Texas is tough, so they're going to need to be, and I'm sure that they will be. I'm sure it'll rise to the occasion uh, in this one here. So, all right, thank you, everybody. Hope everyone has a great week. If I don't talk to you, I will sooner than you know. I'll leave you to it and say, Coach Kev, out.